Hi there, cozy besties. This is Olivias Cozy Dreams, and I'm so excited to share with you my latest speed build in the Forest of Valor, inspired by Mulan and Mushu, and how I wanted to make them a cozy village. We're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to start with the landscaping portion of this build. I went ahead and put down the touch of magic rugs that I'm going to use for my water and kind of just stacked them, and then started working with rocks and the shrubs to kind of see what was going to look better. At first, when I started doing this build, I thought it was a really good idea to go ahead and use these rocks that already had bushes. And while I did end up liking these rocks, I ended up seeing later on that they weren't completely going to work with everything I wanted. So I ended up putting some of these away and only putting them on certain parts and using the single rock by itself so that I could put my own shrubs and my own landscaping to it. I just felt like I had more control of this build if I was going to be adding my own shrubs to it. So I did use those other ones a little bit here and there to kind of add a certain fullness to it, but I wanted to also add in my own fullness to it. When you're doing something like this, there's going to be a lot of illusion to it. There's going to be a lot of making sure that the objects are the way that you want them to turn and look, to form the water and to kind of hide those sharp edges and lines of the rectangle rugs to make it look like water. We want to make sure that there's a bit of formation. Of course, we want it to be aesthetic. Of course, we want everything to be symmetrical, but in real life as well, realistically speaking, water is not something that is in a straight line. It's something that flows, and nature is something that is turned in different directions. So while there's a bit of symmetry to the eye that we want to be there, we also want it to have a bit of unbalance in a sense, and not completely straight, a little bit jagged. I did want to add in these lily pads because they glow, and I love these lily pads so much. And so I love that we were given this with the Tiana star path. I went ahead and incorporated some of these in the water so that they could glow and add like a very luminescent feel as the sun were to go down, and also at night. I started to add in some of these smaller rocks as well, with some of these ferns and some of these plants, trying to create more of a realistic look. I had to go back and forth quite a bit. I did want to add in this bubbling bathtub here to kind of look like a little, hot tub outside, or maybe like a little sauna. I just think it would be something really cool to be able to get into if you were actually hanging out here. I feel like Mushu and Mulan would be hanging out here after a long day's, hard work and spending so much time out. They'd want to come here and kind of retreat. So I was excited to add in Mulan's house and some of the other temples that we did receive from the premium shop. I'm really excited that these came through in the premium shop and not a star path, hoping that more people would be able to grab it from the premium shop, since a lot of the premium shop items are coming back. I did go ahead and add a lot of mushrooms to this build as well, because they actually glow when the sun sets and also at night, which I absolutely love that they gave us these mushrooms with the new DLC Storybook Veil. So excited for that DLC. Can I just say, I have been having a blast in it. I cannot wait to do some speed builds into this account with that DLC as well. But I was also really, really excited to do this Asian inspired build. I've been wanting to do this build for quite some time, and I've been thinking about doing it for quite some time, but I was waiting to make sure that I had all the buildings I wanted and all the things, and I just felt like this was the perfect time. I did go ahead and start adding this path around these houses. I just thought it looked perfect to have this bamboo path set all around them. I felt like it was very realistic, but I did also want to start playing with different types of pathing. So you're going to see some dirt paths, some bamboo paths, we have some rock paths, and we also have some flower paths that I'll be adding here just for different types of textures, just to, in my opinion, make it look more realistic. But also I wanted to add an ethereal look to it as well. And so I love the flower paths, and I love anything that has to do with foliage and flowers. So you're going to see a lot of that. I love natural builds that have a lot to do with like gardens and outdoors and those types of like luxurious, beautiful builds. And so I wanted to go ahead and incorporate a bit of that. I also wanted to use some of these bushes that we did receive with the Storybook Veil update. So I played a little bit with these bushes, also with the rocks and with the lily pads, just putting in all of this, trying to make it look full. I think that was my biggest attempt in this video, in this build. What I was going for the most was making sure that these areas were filled in to kind of give that realistic look. You know, when you look in nature, when you look to see some of the architecture out there, you're going to see that a lot of buildings and a lot of areas and cities do have a lot of landscaping, and things are fleshed out quite a bit. So just remembering to flesh things out in your valley. If you see builds, if you see decorations where things look really fleshed out, really full, that's really what they're doing, is they're adding in that realistic element by making sure that every nook and cranny is fleshed out where they want it to be. So my biggest concern was the water side, and was making sure that it looked so cohesive and making sure that it looked full and as realistic as possible by hiding in all the rectangle lines as much as I could to the rug, so that hopefully from far away it would look like water. Of course, up close, you're going to be able to tell that these are touch of magic rugs, but from far away or when taking pictures, it will give the illusion that this is a running river. And I was so excited to take some of these pictures and be able to add them into my Instagram. And I was really excited to see that a lot of you ended up liking this build and ended up liking the water. I did receive a lot of questions on how it was that I ended up making this river path. And to be honest, it was with the touch of magic rugs. A lot of us know about the rugs, and then a lot of us don't. There's a lot of new people to Disney Dreamlight Valley, and there's a lot of people who have never used Touch of Magic. I was one of those people until recently. I would never use Touch of Magic. It wasn't something I was really interested in, but every little once in a while I would look at the Touch of Magic and think, oh, I really want to, make some water, or I want to make this, or I want to make that. So I started to dabble a little bit, and to be honest, to make the water, it's pretty easy. You just pick what color you're going to want, and you put it in there. And so you create a rug with it, and you can end up making it look really realistic. For this area right here, I wanted to flesh it out a lot. I wanted to put on these buildings a lot of flowers, things to draw attention to the buildings, but also to, make it full, make it look realistic, like this is actually, a city, a village in which people have taken time to put flowers and to put brush everywhere, and so that it would look beautiful as a walkthrough as well. So I was really excited to kind of mess with this and play with it. I also had big plans to add in a lot of glowing lights, not just the mushrooms, but also some of the Bayou fireflies that were given to us with the Tiana update and Star Path. Those are some of my favorite fireflies, some of my favorite lights. I know so many of us love incorporating those in our builds, and so I'm really excited that we have those, and I did end up using quite a lot of them on this build. I am going to focus a lot, like I mentioned before, on the landscaping portion of this speed build. And then the decoration process, you're going to see it through a video walkthrough of me walking through the valley with you and kind of just showing all the decorations that I ended up putting here outside of, just the landscaping that went into hiding the rug edges. So I did have to play with this quite a bit. You will have to probably play with this and see what you think looks good, what brush looks good. If you're wanting to do something like this with water, you're going to want to incorporate and see what flowers do you like, what flowers do you think look good, and kind of use your imagination to provide, the best that you think is beautiful for your valley. Everybody has a different aesthetic, everybody has a different style, so I kind of just went with what I thought looked good, what I really liked, what I really enjoyed. But sky's the limit here on what you can do with the landscaping. You just got to play with it, you got to play with the illusions and do what you can. I wish we could layer a lot more than we're able to, but I am happy for a lot of the changes that they have made to the decorations and how things are looking really different. I did decide to go a little bit different than this right here. I wanted to put in a few of these red plants, a little bit more in this area, flesh it out a little bit more than the top, just because this was like the end of the river, and so I wanted it to be very, very full. I wanted to add in some extra rocks for extra layering and to hide the carpet here so that it could actually look like water as much as possible, being, running through and then stopping there on that portion. I am not sure if I'm going to add any more water later on. I was considering it, but then I ended up putting in decorations into here. So maybe I might add more water later on to this build if I end up tearing up this biome, which I often do with my decorations. I know a lot of us end up building and then tearing it apart and building other things. It's a little bit of why we love to decorate on Disney so much. It just always keeps you wanting to decorate more and more and more. So I did go ahead and add these bushes. These beautiful pink bushes are from the Storybook Veil update. I love that update so much. They have given us so much brush. They have given us so much bushes and mushrooms and trees that come with the DLC, and you can use them unlimited. You don't have to buy them at Scrooge's shop, and that is the best thing ever. I wanted to use these magnolia trees that we were given with the Mulan update as well in this biome, since this is a biome centered around her and Mushu and around this Asian inspired build. I wanted to use those trees as well as all the other foliage that you're going to see in here. And then here in a few seconds, it is going to end up showing the walkthrough, and we'll end up going through the entire build together after, having put in all the Bayou fireflies and all the other decorations. We'll walk through that here in a second. I wanted to make sure to flesh everything out, put all of the brush in here. It did take quite a bit. So if you're trying to do builds like this, if you've never attempted builds like this, don't get discouraged if at first things are not fitting together, they're not laying together. Just keep on and you will see that it's going to come to life the more that you add in. So here's a bit of the walkthrough. Walk with me as we go through. These are the decorations I wanted to add in. A lot of it is the natural, plants that you saw me placing here, but I also added in quite a few other things like the fireflies. I added in more plants. I added in more of a flowery path back here. I love the firefly lamps, and I wanted to add a bit of a shrine here next to the teleportation. And then as we go around, there's just going to be, a big rock here. I wanted to make it as natural as possible. I put in a few statues, a few lights, just wanting to make it look like a garden, like a village, out in nature. I added different paths to play with textures, and I did add some elements from, the Mulan start path that we had. I ended up wanting to put an area for sushi, like an outdoor little sushi restaurant. I wanted to make it very intimate, so I didn't want to make anything too big, but I love that octopus. He adds so much character. I wanted to add sushi and some food. And so those were some of the elements that I added into this build just to make it look as realistic as possible. I ended up being really, really happy with this build. It's one of my favorites, and I hope to continue doing more speed builds for this channel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in for my first speed build update. It has been so awesome. It has been so fun to be able to do this. If you did enjoy this content, if you enjoyed the build, please consider giving me a follow on my socials. I would love to continue interacting with you guys. I do love to get on Twitch quite regularly and stream, and I also like to post content on Instagram and on Threads. So I hope to get to know some of you besties more and more and more. And if you wouldn't mind subscribing, I would love you for long. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.